Measure J continues the efforts to build new transit projects, both rail and bus. It includes monies for the cities to deal with everything from potholes to bridge repairs. It includes 20% of Measure J monies will continue to go for bus operations and bus capital. So it goes for a variety of transit improvements throughout the county, not just transit, but also highway. A dozen transit projects, 15 highway projects. And it also includes monies for the cities and the county to do work. Measure R is the half-cent sales tax that was approved in November 2008. There were more than 2 million voters in LA County. 68% of the vote. It was people of all income levels and ethnicities that were willing to tax themselves a half-cent for transit in the middle of the Great Recession because they're so fed up with traffic. Okay, what Measure R does is it's a dozen new transit projects, largely rail, like the subway extension to the west side, or a Crenshaw LAX transit corridor project, or the foothill extension of the Gold Line to Azusa. All these projects are under Measure R. In addition, 15 highway projects. So they create a lot of jobs. They help deal with traffic, and they help improve air quality as well. Measure J is a 30-year extension of Measure R, and the reason that we're pushing for Measure J now is because it's not a new sales tax. It's just an extension of an existing sales tax. It costs about $25 a year for every resident.
Villaraigosa, mayor of LA, who is one of the big supporters of Measure J, one of the people who has been one of the authors of the idea of borrowing against the projected income to get the benefit now, and the people who will be paying their sales tax later will be getting the benefit of the transit that they're paying for.
What they did give us was they said, okay, you can borrow through what's called the TIFIA program. We'll pass on our low interest rates to you. You can leverage your Measure R monies with these federal monies. Billions of dollars are available to you, right, all around the country. So the interest rate, for instance, for like the Crenshaw LAX project is only 2.43%. That's incredibly low. So the idea is with Measure J is we'd be able to bond the revenue stream for Measure R over to now the 2069 if Measure J passes. We'd be able to seek those low interest federal loans. We'd be able to create 400,000 jobs at a time when the economy is still in the dumpers. We'd be able to beat inflation, create apprenticeship opportunities for disadvantaged workers in addition to all those other jobs, and deliver the transit benefit, the mobility benefit, and the air quality benefits and the safety benefits that much sooner.
Complete Streets people argue that for too long we have made the automobile the favored form of transit. Instead of making streets designed to move cars as quickly as possible, you make streets designed for all of these multiple uses to be as safe and efficient as possible. So part of this thing of emphasizing and financing transit and some of the other kinds of measures that will be facilitated with Measure J is to move toward a complete streets model in which we encourage bicycling and complement to public transit and to walking and to using private vehicles.
People ride bikes together with transit too. It's a great way. We're seeing a huge increase in people using bicycles because alongside the transit lines too, there's often bikeways.
Bicycles are an amazing technology. They're about as close as you get to a something for nothing technology. My understanding is that they are one of the most efficient ways of converting calories into forward motion, so that they are using the bicycle to complement their light rail transit. And that's what's called the issue of the last mile, of how do you get from the transit facility to where you want to be. And bicycles are a large part of that answer. In terms of who is supporting and who is opposed, and the public officials of the municipalities who will be touched by the proposed high priority projects are supporting enthusiastically. Labor is way behind Measure J because they like the idea of jobs. A lot of environmentalists are very much in favor of this kind of thing. So you have a whole broad coalition. The chambers of commerce, it's one of a whole series of areas where you get coalitions between labor and business in terms of seeing this as the way that we invest in our infrastructure.
Transit, particularly rail investment, is literally changing the urban landscape. The car capital of the world is being transformed into the transit capital of the world. And so what you're seeing now already is there's billions of dollars worth of development that's taking place around the rail stations in particular. And they're creating villages in some cases. They want to live in these concentrated areas because it creates a community. They don't have to drive a car. They save money, it's better for the environment. People are concerned about the environment now. So it is having social impact, this investment. It's not only putting people to work, it's also changing lifestyles too, and hopefully for the better.
One of the interesting things in Paris is that you do not see obese people there unless they are Americans. And that is seen as related to the fact that Parisians of all classes take public transit and they walk between their house and their job and the public transit. They walk between their connections and in the process get the kind of exercise that keeps them slim and healthy. Ironically, the Parisians smoke, they drink a lot of wine, they eat very rich food, and they live longer than we do.
The more you get people to walk and to exercise through transit, bicycle as part of their trip, it makes a big difference for their health like that. In fact, the Red Cross and the American Lung Association and others have encouraged people to use transit just strictly for that reason. On Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we offer free rides on our service between like 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. the next day because we want to take people off the road. On every New Year's Eve, I go out with LAPD and Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I participate in a press event, standing with people whose siblings and loved ones and children, parents were killed by drunk drivers, right? So they're encouraging people, don't drink and drive, use Metro.
In terms of opposition, there are two of the county supervisors, I know Antonovich and I believe Kanabe, who is our supervisor, have been opposed to Measure J. And this is because they see the areas that they represent as being left out of the immediate direct benefits in ways that they think they should be included. You have those two county supervisors, you have people from municipalities that are not projected to get direct benefit as much as other areas. Some of the outlying areas see Los Angeles as really having been given the priority. And so there is this whole tension between how you allocate resources between rail and bus, and between efforts to get the privileged out of their cars so that we don't all choke on what they're emitting, and efforts to make the world work better for the transit dependent.
But we're like the third largest transit system in the United States. Right? New York and New Jersey are bigger. Just on Metro alone each day, we carry more than 1.5 million boarding passengers. Right? The rail system has grown like 12% in the last year. More than 350,000 of our boardings are on the rail system. And as we build more rail lines, you're seeing more of a balance between bus and trains.
People who are concerned about the emphasis of investment in rail transit as opposed to buses. And you can move a lot more people for the same amount of money if you do bus rapid transit.
Under Measure J, we'll be expanding the Metro bus system, as well as the municipal bus operators, as well as these local return operators too. So people who are criticizing Measure J, they're also saying things like, it's just a blank check, right? Which is totally bogus because Measure R and Measure J specifically spell out what projects will be funded. Measure J did not add any new projects. It just accelerates the existing Measure R, the dozen transit projects and the 15 highway projects. You also have Metrolink. So it's one integrated system. So the people who are opposing it, Measure J, are looking at it, well, what's in it for bus riders? Well, first of all, they're ignoring the fact they're just looking at Metro. They're not looking at that there's been a 200 to 300% growth in the municipal bus operators like LA Department of Transportation, Big Blue Bus in Santa Monica and others. In large part because of these transit sales taxes, they're able to expand their service. It doesn't make sense for us to compete against each other. Okay. They're also not recognizing that thanks to Measure R, the senior citizens, students, disabled Medicare recipients, their fares were frozen for 5 years. Metro fares are among the lowest of any transit operator in the world. So there's a lot of disinformation that's being bandied about, that we're just in the pocket of big developers and so forth. There's no benefit to bus riders. How do you ignore the will of 2,039,000 voters who all income levels and ethnicities that said we want these rail projects, right? I mean, how do you ignore that? I mean, that's the will of the voters. We need to carry out that mandate.